Right now, a shocking development is unfolding in Washington, and it could push out brand new stimulus checks far sooner than anyone expected. For months, Americans have been hearing rumors, leaked discussions, and political arguments going nowhere. But just hours ago, a major shift occurred behind closed doors, and it has changed the entire timeline. For the first time in more than 2 years, there is now a real possibility that stimulus checks could be released immediately. Not next month, not next quarter, but right away. As long as one specific step happens first. And the surprising part is that this required step is no longer just an idea. Lawmakers have already started preparing for it, and multiple officials are privately signaling that the moment it passes, the Treasury could push out payments within days. But here's the truth most people don't know yet. Even if stimulus checks become ready to go, not everyone will qualify automatically. Some people may be included without realizing it, while others could miss out completely if they don't understand how this one key requirement affects their status. So in this video, I'll explain exactly what changed today, what the government must approve before checks can be released, who qualifies under the new framework, how much could be sent, and what you should look for in the next 72 hours. And before we continue, tap the like button so this crucial update can reach more Americans who genuinely need answers right now. The conversation around stimulus checks has gone through so many twists over the last 2 years that millions of Americans stopped believing anything new would happen. People have seen Congress argue, criticize each other, reject bills, and delay every form of financial relief while the cost of living keeps climbing. Rent has gone up, food prices are at levels many families have never seen before, utility bills are hitting records, and medical costs continue to squeeze older Americans and low-income households. But today's breaking development has changed the direction of the entire conversation. What once seemed impossible, immediate stimulus checks, now appears genuinely doable, depending on how quickly lawmakers complete the one remaining step standing between the public and the money. This new momentum began building quietly, without major public attention. Over the last few weeks, several committees in Washington have been studying new economic data showing that inflation pressure is still hitting millions of households. Even though officials continue saying inflation is under control, the latest internal numbers paint a very different picture. Many Americans may not see rising numbers in official charts, but the real-life cost of essentials like groceries, gas, and rent has reached a point where families are spending more for less every single month. Treasury officials have been receiving private reports showing that household savings are nearly depleted across large parts of the country. Credit card debt is at a historic high, with interest rates punishing people who simply need to buy food or pay for medicine. And because of these conditions, new pressure has formed on lawmakers to take action. The first sign of this shift happened earlier this week when a group of lawmakers introduced an emergency framework that would authorize the Treasury to release direct payments on an accelerated schedule. This framework does not guarantee stimulus checks by itself, but it creates the legal pathway that the government needs in order to move quickly. For years, the biggest problem with stimulus discussions has been that the process is slow, filled with committees, debates, and delays. But this time, something different happened. Instead of arguing for months, lawmakers quietly agreed that if one critical step is approved, a funding authorization tied to economic relief, the Treasury could use existing systems to send stimulus checks almost immediately. The key step is the approval of what insiders are calling a rapid funding trigger. This is the requirement that changes everything. Without this trigger, stimulus checks would be delayed for months, even if Congress approved them. With the trigger, payments could be prepared and released as soon as the funds are unlocked. Treasury officials have already confirmed that they still have the infrastructure from the previous stimulus rounds, meaning bank information, routing systems, IRS channels, and direct deposit tracks are ready to activate. They would only need Congress to authorize the money. That is the single step holding everything in place right now. And according to several sources, that step is already under active negotiation. What makes this moment different is the bipartisan interest. Both sides of Congress are facing pressure from different groups. Many seniors are struggling on fixed incomes, especially those relying on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or VA benefits. Younger workers are facing rising rent and shrinking wages. Families with children are seeing grocery bills that keep increasing with no sign of slowing. It has reached a point where ignoring these issues is no longer politically safe for lawmakers. With national elections approaching, both parties understand that financial relief is one of the most powerful tools to regain public support. This is why the discussions have accelerated faster than expected. Another major factor driving urgency is the economic slowdown that several states are reporting. Even though the federal government claims that the economy is stable, new reports from multiple states show declines in consumer spending, reduced retail activity, and an increase in overdue household bills. These indicators show that many Americans cannot keep up with basic expenses. If consumer spending continues to fall, the risk of a recession increases dramatically. Lawmakers know that stimulus checks are one of the fastest ways to prevent a deeper economic slowdown. Direct payments boost spending immediately, help families catch up on bills, and support local economies. That's why some senators and representatives are now pushing to fast-track the funding trigger. So what exactly would it take for stimulus checks to be released immediately? The answer is both simple and extremely specific. Congress must approve the rapid funding authorization. Once that authorization is signed, the Treasury Department already has the technical capacity to release checks within days. Officials have stated that they can process millions of deposits daily using the same system they used in 2020 and 2021. There would be no need for new applications for most people. The IRS already has tax data, Social Security information, and previous deposit details for the majority of Americans. This means that if Congress approves the funds this week, deposits could begin as early as the following week. But the question many people have is who would actually receive these checks? Based on the latest discussions, the eligibility framework is being modeled on a combination of previous stimulus rounds and updated inflation data. This means the primary target groups would likely include low-income households, Social Security retirees, SSDI and SSI recipients, VA beneficiaries, and families earning under a certain income threshold. Lawmakers have been reviewing numbers showing that these groups are under the highest financial pressure. Seniors, especially those relying solely on Social Security, have seen their purchasing power shrink. Veterans on fixed disability payments have reported increasing difficulty covering basic living costs. Low-income families are struggling the most with rising grocery and housing prices. These groups would almost certainly be prioritized. Another surprising development is that lawmakers are considering a hybrid stimulus model. This model would provide a standard payment amount for most qualifying adults while offering additional supplemental payments for seniors, people with disabilities, and veterans. The idea is to ensure that those with the least financial flexibility receive stronger support. While the final numbers have not yet been decided, early proposals have suggested payment amounts ranging from $300 to $1,200 depending on income level and benefit status. These amounts could change, but the focus is to provide relief that matches the inflation pressures families are facing today. One important thing to understand is that the stimulus checks will not be released automatically until the rapid funding trigger is approved. This is the part that many people misunderstood when early rumors began spreading. The government is not sending out payments today. What today's breaking update means is that the pathway for immediate payments is officially on the table and closer than ever before. If the trigger passes, the Treasury can move instantly. Without the trigger, the stimulus conversation returns to slow committee debates. So the key to watch is whether lawmakers finalize the authorization this week. The reaction from the public has already been intense. Many Americans are frustrated after years of waiting for meaningful relief. Over the past year, multiple bills have been introduced and then abandoned. State-level programs have offered small payments, but nothing close to the nationwide stimulus checks people received before. With millions of families living paycheck to paycheck, any direct payment would have an immediate impact. Social media has been flooded with questions asking when stimulus checks will arrive, whether seniors on fixed incomes will be included, and whether the government will finally take action as inflation continues to squeeze people. If the rapid funding authorization is approved, the first sign the public will see is an announcement from the Treasury Department. This announcement would confirm the release schedule and the distribution plan. Historically, direct deposit recipients receive their payments first, while paper checks and prepaid debit cards follow afterward. The IRS typically processes deposits in weekly cycles, But with the accelerated system, stimulus checks could be processed daily. This would allow millions of payments to be sent out within a short period. At the same time, people should be prepared for political disagreements over the final details. Even though there is bipartisan interest, disagreements about funding amounts, income thresholds, and eligibility rules could delay the process. Lawmakers are currently negotiating these issues, but analysts believe the pressure to finalize a deal is stronger than the division slowing it down. Both parties recognize that failing to provide relief in the middle of rising costs could hurt their public approval. This is one of the reasons why the breakthrough occurred today. Neither side wants to be seen as blocking financial help for struggling families. Another reason the stimulus conversation has gained momentum is the rising concern about senior poverty rates. Recent studies reveal that older Americans living on Social Security alone are facing some of the worst financial pressures in decades. Rent increases have hit seniors especially hard, with many retirees spending more than half of their income on housing. Medical costs continue to rise, and prescription medications have become more expensive, despite policy promises to lower prices. A stimulus payment targeted towards seniors would provide immediate support and help them manage these rising challenges. Veterans face similar pressures, with many relying on fixed disability benefits that have not kept pace with inflation. Lawmakers know that these groups cannot wait for long-term economic reforms. They need direct assistance now. As the debate continues, one thing is clear. The next 72 hours will be critical. This is the window in which the rapid funding trigger could be approved. If it is, the Treasury could release stimulus checks almost immediately. If it is not, the discussion may stall again, returning to slow negotiations that leave millions of Americans waiting for relief that never comes. For this reason, staying informed is more important than ever. People should watch for official announcements from both Congress and the Treasury Department, as these will provide the clearest signals about what happens next. As we move forward, I will continue monitoring every development and update you the moment new information becomes available. The situation is changing quickly, and the possibility of immediate stimulus checks is now more real than it has been at any point in the last 2 years. If you found this information helpful, take a moment to like this video so it can reach more people who need to hear it. And if you want to stay ahead of every stimulus, Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and VA update, make sure to subscribe because more urgent news is coming very soon.